So I feel like the West was more competitive, and I feel like in the East, I think we would share the number one pick. I think, if you're in my position, I think you know who you're going to take. Um, and I'm looking at the list of names, and the talent is definitely not the same, or at least that's my interpretation. There's a lot more youth on the East side in terms of drafting a franchise, but I'm going to start off with a player that has demonstrated the capacity to win a championship as the main superstar, someone who's very athletically gifted, has a lot of size, has a lot of playmaking, has the ability to, uh, pretty much carry a very nonchalant franchise to a championship. Um, and I can only give you the first name because I don't want to butcher the second, but with the first pick in the Eastern Conference, I'm drafting Giannis.
A moment of silence because everyone wanted Giannis, and you saw my tears, right? And that's okay. Consensus number one pick in the East. I would have gone Giannis, but I'm going to bounce back here with a player that plays a similar spot, who last season obviously had a real breakout season, got all the way to the NBA Finals. Hasn't got that ring yet, but I think has that upside to build around in the East. And like you said, I think the East is not as deep from a veteran perspective. And, looking at my list here, I think this player here, he's still got a lot to learn, still got a lot of his game to grow, but he's really putting it all together. And I think with the other picks that I'm going to make here too, we can build ourselves a championship winning team that comes out of the East. So I'm going with the second pick here in the East, Jason Tatum from the Celtics.
So I feel like this draft already feels more fun because I think it's not clear who the next best available player is. And I think now it gets very specific to what you're building with the team. So look, I got a couple of players on my board. I'm not going to mention any of them because I don't want to reveal what I'm doing, but I'm going to take the gamble on this one. I'm going to assume that, Giannis has been successful with the assistance of Middleton and Drew Holiday kind of playing specific roles. So, Holiday being able to set up Giannis for lob threats or, space the floor a tiny bit, and also Middleton being able to, hit the jump shots when needed. So I'm going to go on a slightly different route and merge those two identities together. And this player should ideally be a fantastic lob threat, as they are with an existing teammate, but also with the ability to shoot the three, not just from, a set shot perspective, but also from pull-up perspective, and then also from quite some distance. And I feel like these two in tandem potentially have the ability to make the pick and roll for them quite unguardable. So I'm going to go with Trae Young as the
good pick. I like it. I wanted Trae Young too. It looks like this is an opposite world in these two conferences, how we're picking, because by sheer virtue of you taking Trae Young, I'm going to take the best player, and the fact you got Giannis, obviously, that is a big man in the East. And I think, again, similar to Tatum last season, he really had a breakout season. He was an MVP conversation. He should have got a few more MVP votes, in all honesty. And I think he's a sort of player that gets really motivated in that sort of situation. And again, he was healthy. That's helpful. And, like any team that goes all the way, having their core players healthy is important. So hopefully that clean bill of health can continue. So it's a no-brainer to me. I'm going big here. I'm going with Embiid. Joel Embiid from the Sixers. Some irony here that they both could be teammates here if the Sixers had actually taken Tatum. But I'm going with Embiid here.
So I like it. He was down a little bit further on my draft board. I think Giannis, you hear this narrative a little bit that he's kind of like a big, but he just doesn't play like a big. So, defensively, I feel okay with him matching up against Joel Embiid. Obviously, Joel Embiid's size and skill set, it's not really, you don't really match that. Giannis presents his own problems for defenses. So I kind of consider that a wash. I think they both do different things and they're both kind of uncounterable. So instead, what I'm doing is I'm keeping with that theme of really just upgrading the Bucks, right? So Trae Young, I'm not saying is an upgrade on Drew Holiday defensively, but I feel like offensively, yes, and that makes them more potent. But this player is a more upgraded version of Chris Middleton, the better wing at defense and offense, playmaking, but also, has demonstrated the ability to win championships, be the best player on, big teams, hit big shots. But also maybe at this phase would be happy to defer a little bit and has done a little bit of deferring in their current situation. And maybe you're picking it up, maybe you're not, but I'm actually going to select with the 5th pick, Kevin Durant.
The draft has actually taken a turn for the interesting. We the sixth pick now, and
Yep.
I think I got my front court set at this point. Tatum and Embiid for his first 2 picks. I got to get some backcourt talent here. You've taken Trae Young. He was top of my board as the in the guards in the East. So looking at my depth board here, the second player on my list here, I think he's a championship caliber guard. Okay, and he's still a bit unproven, and he's also in a team that sort of in a franchise that unfortunately historically doesn't really go anywhere in a sense at this point. But I think if you put him in a franchise where you're surrounding him with talent, his pass first mentality, his ability to sort of just get the ball into the right spots and often make the right plays, sometimes not necessarily the flashy plays that he likes to pull off, but as he matures and as he grows older, I think, and his game rounds off, if you were to put him in this team that I'm going to end up, fielding in the East here for this conference for this franchise that I'm looking to start up, he potentially could be a player that might average something like 15 points and 15 assists, which is probably unheard of. But, with the talent around him, I'm going with my 6th pick here, LaMelo Ball.
I like it. He was on my list. I guess him and Trae Young probably can't coexist, I think, because Trae Young, already averaged, he led the league in assists. So I think he already does that role for me. But definitely would be quite entertaining. I don't know how entertaining he would be with your 2 players. I think he would have been better off with mine, but that's okay. That's what I get for taking Trae Young early. I'm going to go with this player. So I guess at this point, excluding Trae Young, I'm mimicking my drafting ideas for the West, which I'm going for length, right? I'm going for playmakers with some length. And this person, maybe doesn't always have the flashiest stats, maybe doesn't always have, the flashiest style, and definitely has earned their stripes. But has taken some teams further than ever they really should. Has demonstrated the capacity, but also just wants to win. So I know that he's got a bit of an alpha mentality, but I think on a team that's stacked, he would play his role, even if it was a 6-man role, or even if it was just like, I just need a bucket right now. I'm going to go with Jimmy Butler for the 7th pick.
With the 8th pick of this franchise expansion draft in the East, I must thank you again for taking washed up players and players over the hill, because now I've got plenty of options available to me. I feel like I'm sort of at this point with this next pick potentially taking, well, arguably the best team in the East last season that was within 2 games of getting its 17th championship, and making it even better. And this player obviously at the moment is in conversations with being traded for one of the greatest, well, at least scorers of all time that you decide to pick. And I think he's a talent that obviously, Boston should think twice before they were to swing such a trade if they were actually serious about it. Because I think if he's the 4th option on your team, he's going to be a significantly difficult option to guard as the 4th option in your team. And with his length and his personality and his play style, he would be a perfect complementary piece to my franchise. So I'm taking Jaylen Brown.
So Jaylen Brown was not really on my list, to be honest. I feel like there's some significant issues with him during the finals. You looked at the turnovers of the ball handling, and as you alluded to, maybe being the 4th option, maybe not as big of a deal, but just not really fitting what I want. So I'm going to take a player who probably mimics a little bit of Jaylen Brown, but fits the timeline maybe a little bit better, because I think when we talk about these franchises, we want a little bit of immediate success, but we want that prolonged as well. And I did this with my last pick in the West draft. I picked a player that I felt would be a Swiss Army knife, but not really need the ball, and is working around what other players are doing. So for this one, both from a contract standpoint of keeping the salary low, but also investing in the future, I'm going with Scotty Barnes for the 9th pick.
Okay, with the final pick here in the East, got to fill out this team, finish it off. Well, we got Tatum, Embiid, LaMelo Ball, and Jaylen Brown. You can go many different ways now, I think, to just put the finishing touches on this team. Do I go big? Do I go small? Which way do I want to go here? And I'm gonna draft with the old adage here with this 10th pick and my last pick, today, with talent. I'm gonna pick a player that has the upside here. And again, like we covered at the start, the East is a lot of talent that's still maybe just broken out, waiting to break out. They're still not fully established yet. They're not really established yet. So, my team is definitely going to be much less experienced than yours and younger. But I think this last player here has shown that he has the talent and the length to be able to, really stretch the floor and make a team better. And he can play multiple positions, and that's probably important in today's game. So I'm going to go here with the 10th pick here in the East. Well, a newly minted East player, actually, DeJounte Murray.
I think I don't know what I think. The DeJounte Murray pick is just it's questionable, I think. We don't know what DeJounte Murray really is. And I understand Scotty Barnes could mimic that a little bit. So that's the draft on potential. Scotty Barnes is a lot younger than DeJounte Murray. And we just saw DeJounte Murray struggle with a playing game, whereas we saw Scotty Barnes kind of thrive a little bit in a playoff series against some of the players that you have drafted. So
Scotty Barnes was off the board, all right? Let's be clear, okay?
Yeah, that's fair. But I'm look, other players that pop in my head of like, Tyler Hero could have been like a 6-man for you. You could have went with James Harden or kept Kyrie Irving if you want, a little bit of veteran thing. They're not great, but I feel like that's a better pick than DeJounte Murray. Even Bradley Beal, if you just wanted like a punch of scoring. I don't know. I don't love it. I feel like I've won 2 drafts in a row, so I muchly appreciate that. I mean, look, this team is essentially the same as my West team. It's built around a very ball-dominant point guard that's going to set up everyone else, but everyone else has the capacity to get their own shot. Kevin Durant probably being the best shooter. Maybe that's what's happened. Both teams have a bit of a weakness in shooting. But you've got good floor spacing. You've got Giannis that will probably become a bit of a pick and roll sort of player, but lead the break. And then defensively, I feel pretty confident that could match up. I mean, I look at your team and, you've got Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid, Jaylen Brown, even DeJounte Murray a little bit, good defensive players. So I feel like, if we did our West and East game, our West game is probably a lot more high scoring than the East game. The East would go back a bit more, low scoring, a little bit more tick for tack. But look, I don't know. I like my team. I think Giannis is going to be solid with his athleticism for at least another 5-6 years, and then unless he gets that jump shot, that's probably where it plateaus off. Trae Young needs help for the things that he's weak at, but the things that he does well, his passing and his shooting are pretty elite. Kevin Durant, 3 years ago we probably would have said we don't know what we're getting post Achilles, and we do know what we got post Achilles, and it's still a phenomenal player. And he's also really big on that mentality of like he just wants to hoop. And I think with a team like this, he'd be pretty content just to hoop and let those guys do it. Jimmy Butler probably is getting more and more desperate as the years pass, and he really wants to win. And I think, he understands his role on a team and would respect these guys because there's a lot of alphas on the team. And I think Scotty Barnes would be happy to go along with it and, be that a little bit of that investment chip for the future. So, I think the big 3 is Trae Young, Giannis, and Scotty Barnes for the long-term franchise. But then Kevin Durant and Jimmy Butler are there to get some veteran skills and passed onto them, but also get the win now.
I get the logic behind your picks. Don't get me wrong. Did you check if KD wants to play for you? Because he might be asking for a trade tomorrow. All right, so just consider that point there. All right, you better keep him happy, otherwise, one of your picks is walking out the door already. I think you've definitely taken a much more win now mindset in the East. I think Jimmy Butler probably really solidifies your sort of thought process there. Again, love Jimmy Butler, don't get me wrong, but dude's always injured. He's always in a critical game 7-game series, sorry, and he plays some great games, and then he's totally injured a handful of those games too. And it's quite frustrating in that sort of sense to see that. And obviously, I guess having him healthy is critical for your team to succeed. Clearly, Giannis is your building block. Obviously he was first on my draft board too, having Trae Young and then Scotty Barnes filling those spots there. Look, I don't mind your picks. Don't get me wrong. I just feel that your contending window with this core is probably limited. If you're not winning it within the first year, KD's upset. and Jimmy's probably getting even more injured in that situation. So that's how I would view it. You're absolutely right, though. On my side of the ledger, I think I've sort of looking at what was left and the way that you obviously picked, and you had the first pick, obviously in the East, in the sense. I would have taken Scotty Barnes. He was high on my list actually, but that's all right. He was taking the pick before me. So, but I got a bit of size here. Obviously, I got Murray at 6'5", Ball at 6'6", 6'7" at Jaylen Brown, and everyone's bigger than him. So I do like that fact there, and I think that all of these players still have room to improve. Okay, I think Embiid showed what his ceiling probably is, and that's an MVP talented sort of conversation sort of ceiling that he has. I think you surround him with the talent with these other 4 players here, it makes his life easier. It makes each of their lives easier. You alluded to a few things like what is, and there are question marks, what is DeJounte Murray's ceiling? Okay, how good can Jaylen Brown be? And LaMelo Ball, what would happen if you surround him with 4 players that were all-star, quality players in that sort of sense? So there's definitely those kind of question marks, but I think there's a lot of room here and a much broader window, which is probably what I've sort of gone with in the East here, for them to grow together. You'll probably notice in the first draft in the West, I talked about words like this team's ready to win now. Okay, in the West that I put together. Look, I don't know if this team will go all the way yet in the East, but we're talking about a team that has a ceiling to get even better than what they are now today. And I think there is a window that they can create that can contend in the East. And considering 2 of those players, like I said, are from Boston, and they already went all the way last season, and I'm just adding a few more pieces there that are obviously upgrades to take them maybe those couple of games further. I think I'm on a good track here. And I think one of the important points to consider as well, and there's different approaches, don't get me wrong, is that how long can you keep that window open for? So I like the fact that my guys here can probably contend for 5 to 6 to 7 years, whereas I think your window is going to be much shorter with the picks that you've obviously opted with.
I think ultimately franchises want to win championships, and if I win 2 or 3 really quickly and then I'm a dud, I'm okay with that.
Take it.